For billions of years, an unstoppable cosmic entity devoured entire universes, forcing even godlike beings to hide in fear. Countless civilizations accepted extinction as inevitable. But humanity refused. What began as a search for the truth uncovered a mystery older than time itself, and revealed that the universe's greatest monster might not be a monster at all. This is the story of how humanity challenged the end of existence and changed the fate of reality forever. The universe ended every 13 billion years. Nobody knew why. Nobody knew how. The only certainty was that it always happened. Every advanced civilization eventually discovered the truth hidden beneath the fabric of reality. Deep within the cosmic background radiation was a repeating signal, a warning left behind by countless previous universes. The message was simple. You cannot stop the cycle. For millions of years, the galactic civilizations accepted it. Some species devoted themselves to religion. Others pursued technology. A few tried to escape into higher dimensions. Every attempt failed. When the cycle arrived, stars collapsed, galaxies unraveled, and reality itself reset. Then humanity found the message. The Galactic Council expected the usual reaction. Fear. Despair. Resignation. Instead, the human delegation laughed. Not nervous laughter. Not hysterical laughter. Genuine amusement. The council chamber fell silent. An elder representative from the ancient species known as the Devourer leaned forward. You understand what this means, correct? The human ambassador nodded. It means the universe has a design flaw. The chamber erupted in confusion. A flaw, someone demanded. Yes, the ambassador replied. If something can end the universe, then it can be prevented. If it repeats, it follows rules. If it follows rules, we can break them. The aliens stared as though they had collectively lost their minds. Because no species had ever reacted like this before. For humanity, impossible wasn't a wall. It was an invitation. Within a year, humans launched Project Last Dawn. The goal was absurd. Not survive the end of the universe. Fix it. Scientists from every species mocked the project. The laws of physics themselves made it impossible. Humanity responded the same way it always did. They built prototypes anyway. 10 years later, the first experiment accidentally created a star where no star should have existed. 20 years later, they opened a stable gateway into a pocket dimension. 30 years later, they discovered something horrifying. The cycle wasn't natural. Someone had built it. The evidence was undeniable. Buried beneath spacetime itself was a structure larger than entire galaxies. A machine. Ancient beyond comprehension. Still running after countless universal resets. And somewhere inside it, something was awake. When humanity announced the discovery, the entire galaxy froze in fear. Because for the first time, there was a face behind the apocalypse. And humanity had just knocked on its door. Humanity had just knocked on the door of the machine that ended universes. And something had answered. The signal arrived less than an hour after Project Last Dawn announced its discovery. Every screen. Every radio. Every quantum communication network across the galaxy displayed the same message. There were no symbols, no language barriers, and no need for translation. The meaning appeared directly inside the minds of every sentient being who witnessed it. It contained only 4 words. You were not invited. Panic spread instantly. Entire governments shut down communication networks. Religious movements declared the end times had finally arrived. Several species abandoned their colonies and fled toward the galactic core. For the Galactic Council, the message confirmed their worst fears. The machine was not abandoned. Someone was still operating it. And humanity had attracted its attention. An emergency session of the Council was called within hours. Representatives from thousands of worlds gathered in the largest chamber ever constructed. The atmosphere was grim. Some demanded humanity stop all research immediately. Others argued that further investigation would only provoke whatever controlled the machine. The debate lasted for days. Finally, all eyes turned toward the human delegation. Ambassador Sarah Mitchell stood calmly before the assembly. "You all want us to stop." Nobody denied it. Sarah nodded. "Then answer one question." The chamber remained silent. "If a bomb is counting down toward zero, does ignoring it stop the explosion?" No one responded. "Because that's exactly what you've been doing for millions of years." The council members shifted uncomfortably. Humanity had always possessed a frustrating habit. They refused to accept comforting lies. Even when the truth was terrifying. Especially when the truth was terrifying. "We're not the ones who created this problem," Sarah continued. "We're simply the first species stubborn enough to investigate it." The chamber fell silent. Because deep down, everyone knew she was right. 3 months later, humanity launched the most ambitious expedition in galactic history. The destination was the machine itself. The vessel chosen for the mission was unlike anything ever built. The Dauntless combined technologies from hundreds of civilizations. Its engines bent dimensions. Its shields manipulated probability. Its sensors could observe events occurring before they happened. And even then, many believed it wasn't enough. The machine existed beneath reality. Approaching it would be like a bacterium attempting to inspect an entire planet. Yet the Dauntless moved forward. Against all logic. Against all warnings. Against all common sense. Which, according to many aliens, was humanity's defining characteristic. After 7 months of travel, the impossible finally appeared. The machine. At first, the crew thought their sensors were malfunctioning. The readings were absurd. The structure stretched beyond measurable distance. Sections of it existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Entire galaxies seemed embedded within its framework like decorative lights. No matter how far they zoomed out, they could never view the entire thing. It was simply too large. Too ancient. Too impossible. Captain James Walker stared at the display in silence. Then he spoke the words recorded across history. "Well." The bridge crew waited. "That's definitely not natural." The tension broke instantly. Even facing a machine capable of resetting reality itself, humanity somehow found room for humor. Several alien officers aboard the ship found the reaction deeply disturbing. Others found it strangely comforting. As the Dauntless approached, something unexpected happened. The machine opened. Massive structures shifted. Dimensions folded. An entrance appeared. Not created. Not constructed. Invited. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Because there was only one logical conclusion. The machine knew they were there. And it wanted them inside. Most species would have retreated. Humanity accelerated. The Dauntless crossed the threshold. Instantly, every sensor aboard the vessel overloaded. The crew found themselves traveling through impossible landscapes. Stars hung suspended like lanterns. Rivers of time flowed through enormous channels. Entire universes existed inside transparent spheres stretching into infinity. It felt less like a machine. And more like a factory. A factory designed to manufacture reality itself. The deeper they traveled, the more impossible the place became. Some crew members began questioning whether the laws of physics had ever truly existed. Others wondered whether their entire understanding of existence had been a child's drawing compared to the truth. Then they reached the center. And met the architects. There were 12 of them. At least, the human brain interpreted them as 12. In reality, they appeared differently to every observer. Some saw living stars. Others saw mathematical equations. A few saw beings composed entirely of memory. The architects existed beyond normal perception. Ancient entities responsible for creating and maintaining the cycle. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then one of the architects addressed humanity. Its voice echoed through space, time, and thought simultaneously. You should not be here. Captain Walker crossed his arms. We get that a lot. Several alien crew members nearly fainted. Humanity was casually speaking to the beings responsible for ending universes. The architect remained silent for a moment, as if processing an unfamiliar concept. Finally, it continued. You seek to understand the cycle. Yes. You cannot. Probably true, Walker admitted. But we're still going to try. The architect stared at him. Or whatever passed for staring among beings older than existence. You are unusual. Humanity considered that a compliment. The architects explained the truth. Long before the first universe existed, reality had been unstable. Entropy accumulated endlessly. Eventually existence collapsed into chaos. To solve the problem, the architects created the cycle. Every 13 billion years, reality reset. Entropy vanished. The universe began again. The system preserved existence indefinitely. Without it, everything would eventually die forever. The revelation stunned the galaxy. For millions of years, they had viewed the cycle as a curse. Now they learned it was actually keeping reality alive. Humanity listened carefully. Then Dr. Elena Reyes asked a question. If the system works so well, why are you afraid? The architects froze. Every crew member noticed it. The hesitation. The uncertainty. The fear. For the first time, the beings looked vulnerable. What are you afraid of? Elena repeated. One architect finally answered. The Devourer. The name alone sent shockwaves through the machine. Entire dimensions trembled. Stars flickered. Even reality seemed uncomfortable. The crew exchanged worried glances. Nothing should frighten beings capable of resetting universes. And yet these entities were terrified. The Devourer exists outside creation, the architect explained. It consumes realities. When it finds a universe, it feeds until nothing remains. The room grew silent. The cycle was never designed to control entropy. The architect paused. It was built to hide. The words struck like lightning. Everything suddenly made sense. The resets. The secrecy. The endless repetition. The cycle wasn't maintenance. It was camouflage. The architects had been hiding from something for countless ages. And now humanity understood why. Because somewhere beyond the boundaries of existence, something had finally found them. Suddenly alarms erupted throughout the machine. Reality itself began shaking. Massive fractures spread through dimensional space. The architects turned toward the darkness beyond the structure. For the first time in cosmic history, they looked helpless. One whispered a sentence that chilled every soul aboard the Dauntless. The Devourer has arrived. The Devourer has arrived. The words echoed through the heart of the machine. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The architects, the beings who had built universes, shaped reality, and maintained the cycle for longer than any civilization could imagine, stood frozen in fear. Humanity had never seen anything like it. The creatures before them were essentially gods. And gods were terrified. That alone told the crew everything they needed to know. Whatever was coming was worse than anything the galaxy had ever faced. The machine trembled violently. Across its infinite corridors, alarms erupted like thunder. Entire dimensions flickered. Sections of reality collapsed and reformed. Captain James Walker looked toward the nearest architect. What exactly is the Devourer? The architect's answer came immediately. The end. Walker sighed. Could you be a little more specific? Several human crew members nodded. Aliens aboard the Dauntless couldn't believe the conversation. Most species would have accepted the terrifying answer and started praying. Humans wanted details. The architect focused on the ship's display. Images appeared. Ancient recordings. Events older than time itself. The crew watched as the first universe emerged from nothingness. Stars ignited. Galaxies formed. Life evolved. Civilizations rose. Then darkness appeared. A vast shadow moved through existence. Not a ship. Not a creature. Not an object. It was more like a hole in reality. A wound in existence itself. Wherever it passed, everything vanished. Matter. Energy. Time. Space. Even history disappeared. Entire universes ceased to have ever existed. Not destroyed. Erased. As if they had never been real. The recording ended. Silence filled the bridge. Finally, one human engineer broke the tension. Well. Everyone looked at him. That's bad. The architect continued. For countless cycles we have hidden from it. Every reset masks our location. Every rebirth conceals our existence. Dr. Elena Reyes frowned. Then why has it found you now? The architect hesitated. That answer worried everyone. Ancient beings weren't supposed to hesitate. Finally, it spoke. Because of humanity. The bridge fell silent. Several alien officers immediately turned toward the human crew. Walker raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? The architect pointed toward a series of energy readings. When your species began altering reality, the Devourer noticed. When you opened dimensional gateways. When you manipulated spacetime. When you reached the machine. Each action acted like a beacon. The realization struck everyone at once. Humanity hadn't merely discovered the truth. They had announced the universe's location to the greatest predator in existence. Back on Earth, news spread rapidly. Panic followed. Governments prepared emergency plans. Colonies began evacuations. Religious groups predicted extinction. The stock market somehow crashed despite the possibility that reality itself might cease to exist. Human behavior remained remarkably consistent. Yet among all the chaos, one thing stood out. Humans weren't surrendering. Again. A special meeting was held between the architects and humanity's greatest scientists. The question was simple. Could the Devourer be stopped? The architects answered immediately. No. The discussion should have ended there. Instead, humanity asked a second question. Has anyone ever tried? The architects exchanged uneasy glances. No. The room became very quiet. Finally, Dr. Elena Reyes smiled. There it was. The answer humanity had been expecting. Nobody had ever tried. For millions of years, civilizations had accepted impossible problems. Humanity never had. The species had crossed oceans because they were curious. Climbed mountains because they were there. Walked on moons because someone suggested it couldn't be done. The phrase impossible had a strange effect on humans. It made them interested. Project Last Dawn expanded overnight. Resources from thousands of worlds poured into human research facilities. The galaxy watched in disbelief. The architects watched with confusion. Humans began studying the Devourer. Analyzing every fragment of data. Every ancient record. Every historical encounter. Weeks became months. Months became years. And eventually, humanity discovered something the architects had missed. A pattern. The Devourer wasn't consuming universes randomly. It was hunting something. The revelation shocked everyone. The Devourer wasn't acting like a force of nature. It was acting like a predator. Predators hunted prey. Which raised a disturbing question. What exactly was it hunting? The answer emerged from the oldest records available. Records predating even the architects. Fragments hidden beneath layers of reality itself. According to the data, the first universe had contained another species. Not biological. Not mechanical. Something stranger. A civilization that existed as pure consciousness. They had become unimaginably powerful. Powerful enough to manipulate existence. Powerful enough to create life itself. Powerful enough to threaten reality. And then they vanished. Or so everyone believed. Dr. Reyes reached a horrifying conclusion. What if they didn't vanish? The room fell silent. What if they became the Devourer? The theory sounded insane. Which was usually a good sign in human science. The more evidence they uncovered, the stronger the theory became. The ancient civilization had attempted to transcend reality itself. Something had gone wrong. Catastrophically wrong. Instead of ascending, they had merged into a single cosmic intelligence. An intelligence that consumed realities in search of something it had lost. Its individuality. Its identity. Its humanity. Or whatever equivalent it once possessed. The Devourer wasn't evil. It wasn't malicious. It was broken. The discovery changed everything. Because if the Devourer was a living mind, then it could potentially be communicated with. The architects rejected the idea immediately. Impossible. Walker smiled. There's that word again. 3 years later, humanity completed the impossible. A device capable of transmitting thoughts across universal boundaries. The largest communication system ever constructed. Entire planets were converted into processing centers. Stars were harnessed as power sources. Galaxies contributed resources. Even the architects assisted. Not because they believed it would work. Because they had run out of alternatives. The day arrived. The Devourer had reached the edge of the observable universe. Stars vanished daily. Reality itself was beginning to fracture. The communication array activated. Energy surged across existence. Every civilization watched. Every species waited. Humanity sent a single message. Not a threat. Not a weapon. Not a warning. A question. Who are you? The signal vanished into the darkness. Nothing happened. Minutes passed. Hours passed. Then reality shook. The Devourer stopped moving. For the first time in recorded history, it stopped. Across the universe, stars stabilized. The darkness halted. The cosmic predator had paused. As if listening. Then a response arrived. One sentence. A sentence spoken by a voice older than creation itself. A voice filled with loneliness. A voice filled with grief. A voice that sounded as though it had been crying for billions of years. It said, I don't remember. And in that moment, humanity realized something the architects never had. The greatest monster in existence wasn't trying to destroy the universe. It was trying to remember who it used to be. I don't remember. The words echoed across reality. For billions of years, the Devourer had been the greatest terror in existence. Entire universes had vanished before it. Civilizations had feared it. The architects had hidden from it. The cycle itself had been created because of it. And now, after all that time, humanity had discovered the truth. The monster wasn't driven by hatred. It wasn't driven by hunger. It wasn't driven by conquest. It was lost. Completely, utterly lost. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Not aboard the Dauntless. Not within the machine. Not anywhere in the universe. The silence felt sacred. Because behind the cosmic horror, everyone had suddenly seen something unexpected. Pain. The Devourer had once been a civilization. A people. A society. Individuals with dreams, families, ambitions, and lives. Then something had gone terribly wrong. Over countless billions of years, their identities had merged into a single unimaginable consciousness. Memories faded. Personalities dissolved. Names disappeared. Until only a vast, lonely intelligence remained. One that could no longer remember what it was. Or why it existed. Dr. Elena Reyes stared at the incoming data. The signal carried emotions. Not artificial simulations. Not mathematical patterns. Real emotions. Grief. Confusion. Regret. And overwhelming loneliness. The realization hit her like a physical blow. The Devourer wasn't consuming realities because it wanted destruction. It was searching. Searching through universes. Searching through civilizations. Searching through existence itself. Trying desperately to find something it had lost. Its identity. The architects struggled to accept the truth. For billions of years they had viewed the Devourer as an enemy. A force of annihilation. A cosmic predator. Now humanity was asking them to see it differently. As a victim. That idea disturbed them more than the monster ever had. Because enemies were easy to understand. Suffering was not. Captain Walker stood before representatives from every major civilization. The emergency meeting included the architects themselves. The question before them was simple. What now? Many demanded a weapon. Others suggested restarting the cycle immediately. Some proposed retreating deeper into reality. Humanity rejected every option. Because every plan shared the same flaw. They treated the Devourer like a monster. Humanity treated it like a person. We've spent our entire history solving conflicts, Walker said. Not always successfully. Several alien delegates laughed nervously. Human history was filled with wars. Humanity wasn't pretending otherwise. Walker continued. But every major breakthrough started the same way. By understanding the problem. The room listened carefully. The Devourer isn't attacking us. It's looking for itself. One architect shook its head. And how does that help us? Walker smiled. We help it remember. The room exploded with objections. The proposal sounded insane. Humanity intended to restore the memories of a being larger than universes. A consciousness older than time. A mind fractured across billions of years. The task was impossible. Naturally, humans volunteered immediately. Project Last Dawn entered its final phase. Scientists from every species joined the effort. For 5 years they searched ancient reality itself. Every surviving record. Every fragment of history. Every trace left behind by the civilization that had become the Devourer. The scale of the project surpassed anything ever attempted. Entire galaxies became research centers. Quantum archives were built around stars. The architects opened vaults hidden since the birth of existence. Piece by piece, the forgotten civilization emerged. Their art. Their music. Their stories. Their hopes. Their failures. Their dreams. For the first time in billions of years, the lost people were remembered. Then humanity did something no one expected. They built a memorial. Not a weapon. Not a fortress. A memorial. A structure so enormous that entire star systems formed its foundation. Within it existed every recovered memory of the lost civilization. Every preserved piece of their culture. Every name humanity could find. The greatest monument ever created. Dedicated not to victory, but remembrance. When it was finished, humanity sent an invitation. To the Devourer. The message contained only a single sentence. We found your past. The universe waited. Days passed. Weeks passed. Then reality trembled. The darkness appeared. Not attacking. Not consuming. Approaching. Slowly. Carefully. For the first time in history, the Devourer entered a universe without destroying it. Civilizations watched from countless worlds. The architects watched. Humanity watched. The cosmic giant reached the memorial. And stopped. The memories activated. Ancient songs echoed through space. Lost histories illuminated the darkness. Names appeared like stars. Millions of them. Billions of them. Individuals who had once lived. Loved. Laughed. Dreamed. For hours, nothing happened. Then the darkness began to change. Fragments separated. Shapes emerged. Voices appeared. One became hundreds. Hundreds became thousands. Thousands became millions. The single broken consciousness started unraveling. Not into chaos. Into individuals. Into people. Across the universe, everyone witnessed the impossible. The Devourer was remembering. Not facts. Not information. It was remembering itself. The names. The faces. The lives. The identities lost across eternity. A civilization thought dead was coming home. The process continued for months. Then one day, the darkness vanished. The Devourer disappeared. In its place stood something new. Or perhaps something very old. A restored civilization. Ancient beyond imagination. No longer a monster. No longer a cosmic horror. Simply a people. Finally whole again. The architects could hardly comprehend what they were seeing. For billions of years they had hidden. Fought. Reset reality. Lived in fear. Humanity had solved the problem in a single generation. Not with superior weapons. Not with greater power. But with empathy. One of the restored beings approached the architects. "We are sorry," it said. The words carried the weight of countless ages. "We never meant for this to happen." The architects remained silent. Then, for the first time in their history, they forgave. Without the threat of the Devourer, the cycle was no longer necessary. The machine was finally shut down. For the first time since the dawn of existence, the universe would continue forward without being reset. A future without endings. A future without fear. A future without hiding. Years later, historians debated humanity's greatest achievement. Some argued it was first contact. Others pointed to faster-than-light travel. Many cited Project Last Dawn. But the restored civilization disagreed. When asked why humanity succeeded where gods had failed, their answer was always the same. Because everyone else looked at a monster and asked how to destroy it. They looked at a wounded soul and asked how to help. And so the universe entered a new age. Not defined by power. Not defined by fear. But by understanding. The architects remained. The restored civilization remained. Humanity remained. Together. Building a future that no longer had an ending. And whenever someone asked why humanity became one of the most respected species in cosmic history, the answer was simple. Because when the entire universe saw an impossible enemy, humanity saw someone who needed to be remembered.